Hello, welcome to Sound Bites. I'm your host, Holly Whitfield. I'm here with Corinne Knight of Grecian Gourmet Kitchen. This week, we're going to talk about Corinne's mission to share her family's Greek recipes with the masses of Memphis and her business's journey from a farmer's market staple to a South Main restaurant, and now to Grecian Gourmet's focus on catering, grab and go, and production for where you can get their great food at your local grocery store. But first, some essential housekeeping. Know that Sound Bites is the Daily Memphian's weekly food, drink, and dining podcast. It's a part of our free podcast series. No money's required. You can just listen. You can hear the new episodes every week on WYXR Radio on Thursdays at 11. If you search Sound Bites Daily Memphian into your search bar on your internet, you can find us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or you can type that into any podcast app you use. You can even stream episodes at dailymemphian.com. If you're listening right now on WYXR, up next, you can hear the Sidebar podcast with our Daily Memphian CEO, Eric Barnes. He interviews people in Memphis about our arts and culture. But let's get started with Corinne. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's so good to talk to you again.
I know. Good to talk to you.
You've been a really fun interview over the years and a great source, talking about downtown, talking about your restaurant, talking about other things going on in the city, and always willing to share your point of view and your delicious recipes. So hopefully Daily Memphian readers will be getting to have one of your recipes coming up in the next few months. We're working on getting some recipes back on the website. So
yes, we will.
We will. But let's just get started with your story. Are you from Memphis? These recipes are your family's Greek recipes. How did you get started making those, and how did you decide to turn that into your career?
Yeah, so I grew up in Midtown, close to the zoo, rider bikes everywhere, and how we kind of like started making everything is just for like family holidays.
Yes.
We would always have a ton of people at our house, and like in our neighborhood, there were like 25 of us who all between like living on Stonewall, Willette, Avalon, there's like a pack of us. Mm-hmm. And so between family and like all of our friends, everything was a lot of people. There'd be 50 to 60 people at our house for holidays.
I can't imagine that.
And like, it was just like chaos. Like grandparents would bring their friends and my aunt and uncles would bring their friends and then my parents' friends. It was just always a lot of people. So we were cooking a lot of food.
Yes.
And so when I was around 7, I was like roped in to make baklava and damadis because the smaller your hands, the easier it is. And so kind of from there, I helped a lot for that stuff. And we made food for just like our friends.
Yeah. What kind of dishes were you making?
So like a lot of people would want baklava for the holidays. So like we would make it for my teachers. My mom would make it for her coworkers at St. Jude. And so kind of from there, we would do that. And then we had people asking for more stuff, like just like casual catering. So, we would make like pastizzo and moussaka and things that seem complicated to people. But like once you're used to doing like big batches of it, it's not hard. Like all of our recipes that are our big batches for the restaurant come from our recipes at home.
Yeah.
Because they were just so big. Around like 2016, we started doing, the St. Jude Farmers Market.
Yes. For their employees.
Yes. For their employees. They still have that market now, but it's in a different spot. So we were doing the St. Jude Market, and how it kind of started doing that is when I was done with college, I got a dual major, education and English, so nothing related to what I'm doing now. I joke that I can write a really good email.
Yes.
And
that's important sometimes.
Yes. And so after that, I kind of took a break, deciding what I was going to do. I had my oldest in 2016, and when he was like really little, that's when we were doing the St. Jude Market, and we were just kind of like for a hobby to do something. I was deciding if I wanted to go back to my master's or not. Kind of decided I didn't want to do that.
Right.
And we kept doing more of this. And after the St. Jude Market, then we started doing like the Agri Center Cooper Young and Agri Center, Cooper Young, St. Jude, and downtown.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people got to know you.
And so we were kind of like just split up between all of those places every Saturday and Thursday. We also did, you remember that market they had at Overton Park for a few years?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did that one. That one was also a Thursday afternoon, I think.
So your family, so it's your mom?
Yes, my mom, Jo Beth, and Jeff. If anybody went to the restaurant with any frequency or at the farmer's market, they know Jeff and Jo Beth.
Yes.
We were all three of us were always in there.
Yes. And that's your mom and stepdad. So you guys would split up. You were going to all the markets, and I'm assuming you saw the need for the dishes you were making.
Yeah,
people really wanted. People wanted it.
It escalated really quickly. Because it was like we were kind of just making things in my mom's kitchen.
Yes.
And then once we were doing more of it, we were like, okay, like we need a space to do this. And we rented out the kitchen it's the University of Arkansas satellite thing that's in West Memphis. And I think they have like a culinary program. I don't know if they still do. But you could rent the kitchen space. And so we were doing that. You could also leave things there.
Yes,
like
store.
Products to store and freeze. And so we did that for a while until we bought like a ton of residential fridges and freezers. And and my mom's garage was like lined with them. So after
That's amazing.
It was kind of ridiculous. And I had some at my house too. And so we just had fridges and freezers all over the place. And then after that, we started doing grocery. We were in Miss Cordelia's. That was the only place. And from there, we realized, just because it happened so quickly, so that was 2016. And then 2017 is when we were in Cordelia's. And then we started doing so much of it, we kind of realized that there was a market for it. So mid-2017, we started looking for restaurant space.
Yes.
At the time, it wasn't necessarily restaurant space. We were looking at a kitchen to do what we were doing, like our grocery stuff. And then also as like a grab and go, more like a deli kind of thing versus restaurant. We looked at a lot of spaces, and what we kind of settled on was a space on South Main. After pulling all of our demographics, most of our customers were downtown. And it just kind of like made sense. And the idea went more so from doing grab and go and deli to doing sit down restaurant. And it was very well received. We were really busy.
You opened in 2018?
End of 2018. Yeah. March of 2018 is when we opened. And we were really busy most days, pretty much every day. Like there were a lot of people downtown at that time. I remember like lunch would be so crazy.
It was. I remember going.
It would be like, I would sometimes feel bad because we didn't even have time to like clean tables off. People would get their food and just be waiting for somebody else to leave.
Right.
Because we sat like a total of 58 people inside and outside.
Yeah, it's not very big.
Like it was not a big space, and we had tables like packed in there. So we went from that to then obviously there was COVID. It kind of like hit everybody. Like in my camera roll, it goes from like a really big private event that we had in the restaurant to like 3 days later, like, hey, everybody, we are closed for service, like pretty much indefinitely. We still did takeout, but we kind of decided at that time, my mom and Jeff, they didn't want anybody else in there, especially not me. It's my husband is a firefighter, paramedic for Memphis. And so obviously his level of exposure was pretty significant.
Right.
And because, I mean, at the time, if you got it, you were still working unless you were actively sick.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I felt like it was only a matter of time until I got it. And they were like, we're older. We don't want to get it.
Right.
And so I was not allowed to come back into the restaurant until July. And at that point, I was pretty pregnant. I was halfway through. And what we started doing, we really didn't let anybody come in until the end of 2020. people didn't really like that. You know, some places were letting people come in with like the social distancing,
reduced capacity, all that.
Like we would, I think at the time we would maybe let people sit at the bar. We even like moved all the tables so people wouldn't think that they could sit in.
Right.
We let people sit at the bar. We let them sit outside, but that was kind of it. And so at that same time, we started doing a ton of corporate catering because we had all of our customers who worked downtown were now at their offices. Well, not in their office anymore. They were at home with those like, you know, those giant
Zoom calls.
Yes, with like, you know, hundreds of people. And so what we had, how it started, the bigger corporate catering, is we had a customer of ours have 300 box lunches made, and 3 of their employees delivered them to each individual person's house. And so then once crazy, it was like kind of insane. And so once someone like the word got around that we were able to do that and doing it, we just started doing so much more of it. Especially when people started to phase back into the office. But I mean, I think even still now, a lot of places only like 2 days are required.
Sure.
And so instead of people coming down to the restaurant, as an incentive, they were having it catered in. And so we kind of were in this situation where the bulk of our customers that would come into the restaurant were now just staying at their office and we were dropping it off.
Yeah. Or they were still at home.
Yeah.
Or mix. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you had this mix of it. And it started to become evident that was a much better business model.
Right.
Because we were so, like, lunch was our biggest thing. That was, like, it was crazy from right at 11 till about 2 o'clock. Like, it was nuts. And then you had the neighborhood in the afternoon. But you had, at the same time, in 2021, you had Raymond James moved, Terminex closed, a few law firms moved out east.
Yes.
A few architectural firms moved out east. So you had our core customer base leave downtown.
Yeah.
Even like some of the neighborhood, like younger professionals, they either moved with Terminex or some of the other places. They moved out east to be closer to where they are. I mean, even my brother did. He lived in Harbortown. And then when he works at Raymond James, so does his husband. And once Raymond James moved, they were like, well, there's no reason for us to live in Harbortown anymore. And so you had a lot of people doing that. Yeah. And so we started doing so much more corporate catering. I started really looking at phasing out towards the end of 2021 into 22, because we were kind of in the middle of the process of me taking over ownership from my mom and Jeff, because it was all 3 of us were co-owners. And there was always the long-term plan to phase it out within a few years. And originally it was going to be essentially to the end of our lease. And then I make that decision of whether I want to renew and stay. But COVID really sped up that process.
Yes.
We were all so burned out. It was like 12 to 16 hour days because we were doing the catering, and the grocery store side of it became so busy. And then like everybody was trying to, like restaurants putting stuff into stores. I feel like everybody was. So you had that at the same time, and the restaurant was just not rebounding.
Right.
Yeah. And so I took over full ownership January 1st, 2022, and really was starting to make that decision on if I wanted to stay or not, or even if I just wanted to not be a restaurant anymore and still stay where we were. But our rent was going to increase, and we needed a much larger kitchen than what we had. It was just not going to be the space that we needed. It just wasn't going to work the way, I mean, you know, like we had that really long counter, but not ideal for large scale, like commercial catering.
Right.
It's just not, it didn't work for that. So I spent a while looking for spaces. I mean, I live in Eads, so I ideally wanted something closer because that drive was terrible. I feel like I just like disassociated every night when I was like driving home. And I found the place in Bartlett and kind of then found it in October. And I think October is when I let people know I did our post. Maybe it was October. I wanted to give people like enough time to be able to come because I feel like a lot of places will like announce that they're closing and then they close a week later.
Yeah. And people don't have time to come back for the last time
and
or
they're
whatever.
like, oh my God, I missed them or da-da-da-da. And I mean, it's kind of that thing where it's like, well, if you missed us so much, you should have come in.
Yeah.
And
yes.
yeah, I know.
Like, you know all the reasons why, but
yeah. I think people don't really make that connection, but I mean, it is what it is.
How can you not make that connection?
Yeah. Right. But tell us where you are in Bartlett and what you're doing now. And then we're going to talk about food.
Okay, great. We are at Germantown Road at 64, kind of in that same shopping center where 901 Hot Pot is. Gus's is right behind it. For the first 2 years, we were not open to the public at all. I was entirely burnt out on doing anything with service or like working past noon because we had the vast majority of our food leaves from like 8 a.m. to noon.
Yes.
And so we had staff coming in. We were getting in at like 4 a.m., doing retail production, doing catering, kitchen fully cleaned out by 11 to 11:30, and then like the day is done.
Yes.
And so it kind of like I was able to still take my son to school and opened up the ability to be home in a way that I just wasn't at all for the 5 years prior. My oldest like lived in that restaurant.
Yeah.
I think some people who knew like he would be back there behind the counter or especially like after COVID because he was supposed to go to preschool and
no preschool.
That was a flop.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to be able to spend time with my youngest since he was a COVID baby. And even in 2021, he would be like strapped to me in that restaurant. And I was like, this is just like not fun anymore. So having like a better work-life balance was really what I wanted because I didn't want to hate this. And I reached a point where I really did, where I considered like not doing it at all anymore. I like had the conversation multiple times with my brother and my husband of like, you know, I could just sell all of this and go work in an office somewhere. Just like a job that doesn't really require me to make big decisions or be super responsible.
That's some burnout right there.
Yeah. They were like, you don't want to do that. You would hate that. They're like, you have not had to be somewhere that someone else is telling you to be for quite some time. And I was like, valid. That's true.
That's true.
And so after we kind of went through those 2 years, I really had some time to like take a breath and like enjoy my life, be able to like go on vacations or take my son to birthday parties or be home on Mother's Day instead of working on Mother's Day. Like all of that stuff was hard because we would still do it. We were open.
Right.
But it was kind of like at the expense of like my family.
Yeah, of course.
So it was kind of, you know, not great. And so when we closed, moved where we are, we were not open at all to the public. We did pretty much all corporate catering. Corporate and medical are kind of like our bread and butter. And then the grocery stores.
Yes.
It's very consistent. You have a lot of the same customers who want the same things. Makes it really predictable and easy. But then we had people trying to come in to the store and it was like very uninviting. Like just hot boxes everywhere, hot boxes, racks of containers. Like it was pretty obvious that you can't do anything in there.
Right.
Like,
this is not a have lunch in this place.
No,
but they were like knocking down the door.
Yeah. I didn't even have a sign up. Like it was very nondescript on purpose. But kind of after we had a lot of people coming in, I was looking at the idea of opening just a grab and go for all of our prepared foods and then making some more stuff. Things that kind of like I liked to make at home.
Yes.
And like realize, okay, I can just like multiply these recipes out and we can do them as frozen meals, see what works, see what doesn't. So I opened that in March and it's been pretty good, honestly, better than I expected because it is a weird location. Like at the time, I didn't care where it was. I was just like, I would like to have low rent and a big space. And
yes.
they were both of those. And now I'm like, kind of like, yeah, this is not an ideal location. But it's still...
People are willing to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So walk me through your menu or some of your dishes and maybe tell us a little bit about it. If we don't know about Greek food and like I can't pronounce any of these as beautifully as you can. So tell us what you've got on the menu.
So we have a lot of like classic Greek stuff like tamales, panakopita, pastizo, moussaka, like baklava. We make everything. There's not a single thing that doesn't come in as a raw ingredient. So we do that for catering, and we have it in our grab and go, and we have some of that stuff in grocery stores. And a few things that we started making that are pretty much only there are like avgolimeno. We have it in the freezer. We give you instructions to thaw it out.
And what is that?
It's a chicken lemon soup. It's kind of like, what does she call it? A friend of mine from the Greek church, she even calls it like Greek penicillin.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's like a comfort thing. So we have that. We have sun-dried tomato chicken pasta.
Yes.
And like a garlic cream sauce. And that was something that I liked to make at home. And my husband was like, why don't you like try to do this in the store? And I was like, well, that's a good idea. And it's a favorite. And so it's like Greek baked chicken, bow tie pasta, sun-dried tomatoes, a garlic sauce. And it's really simple. It's good. And we do some regular things like a shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie is like my absolute favorite thing to make at home, especially when it gets cold outside. So I was like, this will be great. It's like, especially like the most unhealthy way you can do it as humanly possible. Like a ton of cheese, a ton of butter.
Yes.
Like lamb and beef, and like just not in any way good for you. But
good for your
yes.
mental health.
Yes, very much so.
Okay. So you're saying dolmades?
Dolmades,
yeah. And that is like the grape leaves.
Yes.
How do you make your grape leaves?
So ours are beef, rice, mint, and onion wrapped in a grape leaf. You have to pack them into a pan very tightly. And then you put a lid, like a pan lid, upside down, like to have it compressed. If they're not packed in as tight as humanly possible, once the rice expands, they're going to start falling apart. You're going to have like soup. It's not going to work. And so it's like you can think that they're too tight in there, and it probably needs to be tighter. And the tricky thing about tamales that a lot of people kind of miss is you have to really watch the broth level, because it's going to stay pretty high, but then once it reaches a boiling point and starts to absorb, it's going to drop immediately. But it still needs to cook for about an hour. And so you kind of have to babysit them. And then, once they're done, they're great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, this is something we've talked about before, maybe with your pasticcio. Did I say that right?
Yes. Pasticcio, yeah.
Pasticcio. Is when you look at the recipe, it's sort of deceptively simple, and like people could totally make it. But why? Why? When you can have somebody who's an expert at it, it's that convenience factor. And it's also, I mean, I think people would love to know, and will love to know if they're listening, that everything that you make is from scratch and all the raw ingredients, because you don't always know these days if you're getting that kind of dish. What's another one that you love making for your family, or that you make at the holidays now?
Catopita. So it's basically a Greek chicken pot pie. It's like phyllo on the top and the bottom. In the middle, kind of like the binder is like a bechamel with ours. Instead of like, I think I've seen people use like chicken, like the thick Campbell's soup before.
Yeah, the cream of chicken. Yeah.
But ours is like pretty similar. You have Greek baked chicken, carrots, celery, onion, and that all kind of cooks down in white wine and like our Greek spice. We kind of like came up with it years ago, and now just have it made for us. And so we use that in literally everything. And so then once that gets to a good point, you add it into a bechamel. And when it cooks, it cooks like really thick, and it's so good. It's my absolute favorite thing to make.
Yes, it sounds delicious. I'm getting hungry now. But people definitely know you also for your dips and like hummus and chips and pita chips and like that. I think that's like sort of what you started with partially at the farmers markets, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just that.
Yes, chips and
easy
dips.
Chips and dips. People love it. So you were kind of talking about this downtown exodus. That's kind of the way that you're describing it, like post-COVID, during COVID and post-COVID. But that reminds me a lot of people that we've had on the podcast have talked about like the business cycle of restaurants, especially earlier this year. We kind of had a lot of restaurants maybe closing and high profile restaurants closing that got people like, oh, everything's closing. And it's like, well, maybe it's actually just a part of the restaurant business cycle. How do you see that? And how do you see like the Memphis scene specifically, that pattern?
I feel like a lot of restaurants, they have this 5-year life cycle. I mean, that's the low end of a lease. You know, you're going to do a 5, 7, 10. Some places do 15, which I think is crazy. You have to be like really, really invested in yourself. But most people go on that 5-year span, and you kind of, if people start to like not really be successful, they're going to write out a lease instead of paying 2 years of rent. Yeah. Because then that's like a whole nother issue. So I think seeing so many people close right now, think of the amount of restaurants that were opening beginning of 2020 and had no idea that this was happening. Right. Like it like blindsided everybody. And so it was like the worst possible time to have opened a restaurant. Yes. And so it's like you're starting at just a terrible base to not be able to build a customer base, really, because no one can come in. Right. And so things were just weird for a few years after. And so I feel like a lot of the restaurants that you saw closing that were only open for 5 years, they didn't get a great start. Yeah. And it hasn't been, I mean, like some places are doing really well that have like a stronghold and either like higher end or have that like perfect combination of like cheap drinks and like moderately priced food. Yes. Like I think that comes to mind is like Brookhaven and Young Avenue Deli. Yes. Like they hit both of those. Yes. And a lot of that, especially like then you have sports on everywhere. It kind of, all that stuff. That's a formula that works for Memphis. Mm-hmm, yeah, exactly. Often. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So where are we now in Memphis? Like, do you think, is it going well? I know it really depends on who you ask. And it's, I mean, in your own experience, and there's variations, but. So I think I feel like things are better than, I mean, they're obviously better than they were. Yeah. I mean, right now, I think everybody is down a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's pretty, I mean, like our catering is down compared to what it was last year at the same time. Not terribly, but it is. Right. And I think you've kind of heard the same from other caterers, other people who own restaurants. You just kind of have this combination of the economy right now. Yeah. And it's, I feel like people in the restaurant industry are pretty bad about being like, I just don't understand why. And it's like, okay, let's be for real. All of our costs have increased on our side. Yes. So what, and when you go to the grocery store yourself, it is more expensive. Right. So it's the one and one it kind of makes sense. Like that connection is there. So I do think that things are going well for people who have a really good product and are kind of like unique, like you mentioned, Good Fortune. They've been doing amazing ever since they opened. But then when did they open? Was it 2021? 2022? Yeah. Like kind of around there. And so they were opening at kind of like a good point where people were starting to rebound. Yes. And so like people like that are doing well, especially something that is unique or we don't have a ton of in Memphis. Yeah, fills a void. I feel like if you were wanting to open like a barbecue or like chicken place, I would be terrified to do that. Like
There's a lot of competition.
Yeah, you have so much competition. And so I do feel like that if you have like that really good combination of price point, space, like being a fun place to go, or you were on the other end of doing something like really unique. And then if you're kind of in the middle, you struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
You're just you hit that life cycle. I mean, because what is it? Most restaurants, we were saying, don't make it after 3 years.
Right. And it's part of the nature of the business. Yeah. Do you think that Grecian Gourmet fills a void in the Memphis area too with your cuisine?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because you have other places, which like, I'm not discounting any of the other Greek restaurants, but we do make like legitimately everything from scratch. The only thing that we get our pita bread for euros from Jerusalem Market, and our pita bread from our chips comes directly from a baker in Dearborn, Michigan. Like I text him on Saturday, it's made on Sunday, overnighted, we get it on Tuesday, and we start cutting and cooking. And that is a cycle that we do every week. Same thing like with our dips. Those are made fresh every week, cycles through. And so I think we do fill this void on like really good Greek food.
Yes.
That is like really made from scratch and taste. Like if you have had spanakopita, or especially, I mean, like Greek people who are, that same thing that you said earlier about like why, even though it's simple, why would you do it? It is the biggest pain to do that in a small batch in your home.
Right.
Like I did a small batch of, so I do a gluten-free version.
Yes.
Because I can't have gluten. And so I was like, I cannot eat anything that we make. So I was making small batches to see if it worked. It was a nightmare. Like it creates so many dishes for like something that's so small and takes so much time, instead of like doing a giant bechamel and like a 20-pound meat sauce. And like then you have an assembly line, and
it really lends itself to the mass production.
It feels like that takes the same amount of time as making like a small batch in your house. Like, and so I think we do fill that void on it is fresh, it is made from scratch, and they're all family recipes.
Yeah.
And which my dad is Greek, so that's where a lot of it comes from. And my mom kind of took from pieces from a lot of different recipes. And so then like hers are a little bit different than the original ones, but it's all the same.
Yes. Okay, we're kind of coming to the end of our time, but I wanted to get your recommendations. And I know you still live in Eads and you don't have gluten. So you're going to have some very specific recommendations for places to eat in Memphis and the Mid-South. Where do you go when you're not making your own food at home? Or do you go out at all?
One of my favorite places is honestly Memphis Pizza Cafe. They have a really good gluten-free pizza. Like the crust isn't weird, because some of them are.
Yeah.
And it's easy to go. You're not taking a lot of time. The kids like it. It works out.
I'm a Memphis Pizza Cafe fan. I know it's polarizing, but I love it.
I know, the pizza wars.
Yeah.
I like thin crust.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people don't. But I don't want that much crust. So
yeah, it works out.
It's best. Oh, yeah. One of my other favorite places, Bosco's.
Yeah.
It is one of my absolute favorite places. I grew up going to Bosco's. Because at the time, there were not a ton of restaurants in that area still.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's about all the time we have. Thank you so much for telling us your story. I find it really interesting, inspiring, the way that you and your family have like pivoted through all these different changes in our world, really, but definitely the restaurant industry, and keep making good food. And people should be on the lookout maybe for a recipe from Corinne. She's gonna hopefully
I will
graciously share something with us for our recipe section. So yeah, that's it. This is Sound Bites. You can hear it on Thursdays at 11 on WYXR Radio. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can listen at dailymemphian.com. Don't miss the little write-ups I do most every Saturday that go along with podcast episodes. And that's that. Thank you so much, Corinne.
Thank you for having me.